Well, I've come out to a small forestry area in North Wales today, and it's a place which never ceases to amaze me with its colours. All year round it seems to have just tremendous trees and ferns and bracken. I don't know what it is about the area, but I always manage to get something when I come here. Now the colours here are so rich and vibrant, you would imagine I would be reaching for the likes of Velvia or even Provia or maybe Hectar, but I'm not. I'm going to be shooting with Fuji's 400H because earlier this year I did a bit of a comparison with 400H against Portra 400, and I was surprised at just how vivid the greens were and how much saturation there was for a relatively fast colour negative film. So that's what I'm going to be shooting in the Bronica today. Just 12 frames, just a few scenes around this area, but I am really hopeful. Now metering wise, this shot is very straightforward. I have no real highlights or deep shadows to worry about, and the dynamic range of this film is fantastic anyway, so I'm just going to, I think, take an average reading off the foliage in the background, the sort of the semi-dark tones, to make sure I get plenty of shadow detail in there. The highlights aren't going to run away though, because they're only probably about 2 stops above that. Now what I typically do when I'm shooting negative films like the Fuji 400H is I make one exposure at the box speed and I make another exposure at 1 stop over. So in this case it'll be an exposure index of 400 and then 200. Now a lot of people like to expose or give a great deal of exposure to their colour negative films because they like that sort of desaturated look. Well, in the United Kingdom we don't have the beautiful blue skies that you'll get in a lot of other parts of the world where you can really exploit that overexposed look. Here I prefer to shoot at box speed and just put 1 over just in case I've lost a little bit of shadow detail. I find that way I keep more colour, especially at this time of year. Now this next image is a little bit more interesting for the simple reason that I was caught between, I'll get the view behind me, I was caught between focal lengths here. I wanted to shoot really with the 80mm, but it's a little bit wide. And the 150mm was a little bit long, so what I've done is I've put my 1.4 times converter onto my 80mm, giving me 110mm. Now that means I have to add 1 stop, so when I'm metering I just have to be careful to increase the exposure slightly, but that gives me the crop I need without having to do excessive cropping in Lightroom later. And also rather than use the long lens and lose some of the foreground detail, which I think makes this shot special. Now having just extolled the virtues of my little 1.4 times teleconverter, giving me the perfect crop, I have actually discovered that if I move, let me just move with up here, if I move further back up this hill here, I actually get a bit more elevation on the scene, and that is giving me more colour in the weeds just lying underneath the surface of the water. And that let me use my 150mm, so yeah, I may be proved wrong here, so let's see how this one compares to the initial shot. Now I think part of the reason why I'm liking this scene at the moment is the light. Now the light is not only subdued, it's been subdued all day, but it's actually about 1 hour off sunset. Not that you'd know, because you're not going to see a sunset tonight, but what that does is it's lowered the overall contrast from the fairly low point when I started today, but it's so subtle now. It is more like a painting, a watercolour, than a photograph. That's my intention anyway. And I'm seeing things that I don't normally see because I'm normally a morning shooter, but today I've decided to make a trip out later on. Well, if I'm not careful there, I'm going to use my whole roll of film on one setup. Whoops, one shot. So I'm going to move on round this very small, it's not a lake, it's a pond, ditch. And see if I can get something else because the light is fading fast. Well, I have seen lots of beautiful colours, some stunning branches with moss on them. And you may be screaming at the screen saying, why haven't you shot that? Well, they don't make good compositions. The colour's stunning. The light is beautiful and subdued. But you still have to get the right composition. And I'm previewing with my little iPhone and its little app, the Artist Viewfinder Mark II. And I'm just not seeing it at the moment. But there was one mossy tree when I first arrived. You probably saw it on the B-roll. And I am going to go back and shoot that come what may. Well, I think I've got the shot I really wanted when I came here. I've got two trees balancing each other out quite well, and I've also got a beautiful moss covered wall, an old stone wall. Had to be careful not to include some bright areas at the top of the frame, but I've just managed to exclude them with a standard lens. Now the exposure for this one, I think I need a bit more exposure to really pull up those shadows, so I am actually going to take the luxury of doing one at 2 over, so plus 2 stops for this one, which is 2 seconds as opposed to the metered half a second. So I've got a balance in there, but I'm not risking this one by taking with a just +1. I really do want to be able to pull out all that detail in the bark. I feel this one's got a real glow to it. Well, I just had the one frame left there, a spare at the end if you like, just in case. And I have spun around to some beautiful, more tree trunks covered in moss. And I do like the colours again. I got some dying leaves in the foreground as well. Safety shot, hopefully it'll work. But I can't believe how well this simple 1 hour, 90-minute shoot's gone. Single roll of Fuji 400H, about 5-6 different compositions. Perfect lighting, absolutely perfect lighting. You can't beat light like this for woodland work. It's superb. I never expected it. It's just a bonus now. It's almost going to go dark. Might not look like it on the video, but it is just around sunset now. So pack up, go home, get these developed in the chemicals, and thanks for coming along, and I'll see you on the next one.